So when I was growing up, I grew up actually in Michigan. And my father, a little bit like Esau, he was a man of the field. We moved to a part of Michigan north of Detroit, suburb. And my dad worked for a local golf course. He was the head gardener, actually. So anyway, he did that for a few years, and he is not the kind of person, he's independent like Esau. He's not really a good employee. He's more like, I can do it myself. I should make my own decisions. So we decided to get into the business of doing landscaping. There was a lot of new housing developments in the area, and people needed, gardens and lawns, all that. So he went out and bought a direct drive rototiller. And it was big and it was heavy. It was actually made in England. It was a beast. So he decided one day on a warm spring day, he was going to go out and till the field behind our house to make a garden. And my brother and I, we were in the house. I don't know what we were doing, doesn't matter. But my dad's out there tilling and tilling and tilling. And one of the things that was unusual about my father was he did not drink water. I never really saw him drink water. But we usually had a bunch of different drinks in the house. Orange juice, what else? A drink called High C, which was a canned grape juice kind of drink. Kind of a little bit sweet and what else? And milk. There was always milk in the house. Anyway, my dad's out there tilling away, and my brother and I are in the kitchen, and my dad comes rushing in. And he was just beet red, and he's just, you can tell, he's just overdone it. He's just really, really thirsty. So he grabs a glass, he opens up the fridge, and he pours in the milk. Well, there's only about that much. So he looks in the fridge, and he grabs the orange juice, and he pours that in on top of the milk. And there's only about that much, maybe twice as much. It's not going to handle his thirst. So he grabs the can of High C and pours that in and fills up his glass. My brother and I are just sitting there watching this like, maybe Dad has invented a new drink. And he slams it down, and of course, he does it too quickly, and he just starts gagging and coughing. It's like, well, we're not going to get rich on this new drink, brother. But when I thought about the story of Esau coming in off the field, it just reminded me of that story of my father. So let's get into it a little bit. So let me read again from Genesis 25:27. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man who stayed at home. Because Isaac their father had a taste for wild game, he loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Well, of course, the son that stays home and helps out domestically, of course she's going to love him more, right? So at this stage in the story, the boys are going from childhood to adulthood. In biblical times, reaching adulthood was significant. It often meant taking on family responsibilities and roles. The story of their growth sets the stage for the unfolding of God's plan through their lives, which we know will go separately, highlighting the importance of God's sovereignty in choosing Jacob over Esau, despite normally Esau would be the firstborn, he would be the favored one. He was a skilled hunter, so he connected with the outdoors and the wild. He reflected a lifestyle that was admired in that culture at the time. Hunting required strength, skill, bravery, traits that were valued in that society. His skills also contrast with Jacob, setting up tension between the brothers. A man of the field, Esau's connection to the land and nature suggests a rugged, independent character. The field symbolizes the untamed world, contrasting with domestic life with mom in the tents. Esau's preference for the field over the home environment may indicate a lack of interest in the spiritual and family responsibilities that were usually passed down to the firstborn. Jacob, he was the quiet one. He was maybe introverted. The word used here can also mean complete or perfect, the Hebrew word, indicating a completely different person from Esau, his more impulsive nature. Jacob will become the father of the 12 tribes, showing a disposition more suited to leadership and spiritual matters. Jacob stayed at home. Preference for staying at home highlights his connection to family and domestic life. This setting is where he learns from his mother, Rebekah, and possibly gains spiritual heritage of his grandfather, Abraham. The home represents stability, continuity, aligning with Jacob's future as the inheritor of God's covenant promises. Because Isaac had a taste for wild game, the father of the two brothers, Isaac had a preference for wild game, which reflects the practices of the time where hunting was a respected source of food. Isaac's preference indicates a personal bias that influenced his affection for Esau. The patriarchal society often valued physical prowess, and Esau's ability to provide game would have been seen as a valuable trait. Of course, it ends up leading to some family tensions, as we'll see. Isaac loved Jacob. Favoritism shown by Isaac is different from the preference for Jacob, highlighting the theme of God's sovereignty in choosing the less likely candidate for his purpose. This choice is similar to other biblical instances where God chooses the younger or less obvious candidate, such as when he chose David over his brothers. But Rebekah loved Jacob. Rebekah's love for Jacob introduces the family division that becomes the central unfolding story. Her preference is not based on material benefits, but perhaps on a deeper understanding of God's purpose. Rebekah had received a prophecy regarding her sons during her pregnancy. That's from the same chapter, verse 23. I'll read it. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." This aligns with God's plan, as Jacob's is the one through whom the covenant promises to the Jews will continue. Rebekah's role in the narrative is pivotal as she later orchestrates the deception that secures Jacob's blessing. Let's get back to the scripture. 29. One day, while Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the field and was famished. He said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stew, for I'm famished." That is why he was also called Edom. Edom in Hebrew means red, which is a reference to his reddish appearance at birth, the red lentil stew for which he sold his birthright. This connection is in the book of Genesis, where Esau's physical traits and actions are linked to the name Edom. Edom, of course, becomes the part of the Arab world that is always fighting against Israel. So these two brothers end up both descendants of Abraham. Jacob becomes 12 tribes of Israel. Edom becomes the leader or the patriarch for the Arab world. So Esau's physical hunger is a critical element in the story. Here, it symbolizes deep spiritual emptiness. In biblical terms, famish can represent a state of spiritual need or desperation, as seen in other scriptures where physical hunger parallels spiritual longing. Getting back to the scripture, verse 31, "First sell me your birthright," Jacob replied. 32, "Look," said Esau, "I'm about to die, so what good is a birthright to me?" "Swear to me first," Jacob said. So Esau swore to Jacob, sold him the birthright. Then Jacob gave some bread and lentil stew to Esau, who ate and drank and then got up and went away. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So the last sentence, he despised his birthright. I mean, obviously he's not going to die, right? But to give up something so important for some lentil stew, I don't know about you guys, but lentil stew is not, maybe a good steak, but lentil stew, forget it. You can keep it. But obviously his birthright wasn't important to him. In that culture, the birthright was a significant inheritance, typically given to the firstborn. It included a double portion of the family estate, leadership of the family. This request by Jacob highlights the importance of the birthright. The birthright also had spiritual implications, as it was tied to the Abrahamic covenant and the blessings promised by God. This moment is pivotal to the story of the patriarchs, as it sets the stage for the fulfillment of God's promises through Jacob's line. "So what good is a birthright to me?" he says. Esau's question highlights a short-sighted, materialistic mindset. The birthright, in biblical terms, was not only a matter of inheritance, but also carried spiritual significance. By dismissing its value, Esau demonstrates a lack of faith in God's promises to his family. This decision has lasting consequences, where God expresses preference for Jacob over Esau in some of the other books of the Bible, Malachi and Romans. Esau's choice serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing immediate gratification over spiritual blessings, a theme that resonates throughout Scripture and points to the ultimate fulfillment of God's promises in Jesus Christ, who embodies the true inheritance for believers.